So I think we are good. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today, Amir Salihefendić. He is a... Please welcome. Amir is a founder and CEO of Doist. I'm a big fan of this company. They're behind building products like Twist and Todoist. So please, welcome. I think you have a mic there, yeah. To give a little bit of background, who doesn't know Doist, and Doist is a company, I believe, from what I found, about 20 million revenue. You are almost 70 employees working from 25 countries, which actually, if my math is correct, is about 300K per employee. And I really love that figure because that's how probably you can measure the efficiency of the company. And so you probably haven't expected that, right? And my first question is, I guess, what was your earlier startup experience like as a first-time entrepreneur? Can you tell how did you get here? You know?
Sure. So, like, those stats are not really that correct.
Oh, really?
Okay. It was like
Please
estimates for this year.
Okay.
Like, they are kind of similar to that, but like it's not really exact.
Yeah.
So yeah. Apart from that, like the way that I have started this is actually just like a side project. Like many of you have like your own side projects, and my side project was a to-do list. So I actually made it for myself, and I'd never actually expected to have a team working on it. And actually, the fun thing is, like, I didn't actually believe it myself. So for the first 4 years, it was just a side project. And it got a lot of users, and I actually spent time working on like a social network instead. So I mean, like that has taught me like something is like it's very actually hard to value like what are good ideas, what are bad ideas, and also value like where you should spend your time. Because if I actually had spent like 4 years initially on Todoist, like we would probably have been much further along than we are right now.
Yeah. But I guess before Todoist, you were running another startup, right? Which was a huge social network at the Twitter time. So can you tell a little bit about that experience?
Sure. So actually, like I started Todoist first, and then it got traction, and then I got hired as a CTO for a social network. And yeah, I mean, I was like very young. I was like probably 22 or 23 at that time, and I got like a sign-up bonus. I got like a equity, a good salary. So it was kind of like a very it was a very good deal, and I was like I learned a ton doing that. So actually, Todoist started before that. Yeah.
Right. So just like to give a perspective to others, how big was that startup? And it was VC funded, right?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of didn't have a business model, so it was kind of in the early days of like social networking. So it was just about growth, and I think like we scaled. Like from launch to like 6 months in, we had like over 10 million users, and I was kind of like managing the infrastructure, and it was just like insane. Like, and the thing is like we didn't have any business model, so it was just like burning money.
Right.
Yeah. So that is kind of like the first experience I had with that, and then also, I mean, I think we failed. Like we got a lot of traction, but we were actually not very good at executing. And I think like in some models, like the social network model, you should actually go in and raise even more money and just like scale, because you can't really just like slow down or like it's a very different model from like the bootstrapping model.
Right. Yeah. So when did you decide to quit it, and why? Because you were a CTO, it was VC funded, you were growing like crazy, and then you decided to quit it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like it was very, very stressful. So, I mean, everything was just like burning all the time. And I was also very inexperienced. Like we didn't have really a great team either. And I mean, honestly, like we were also very close to selling the company twice. Mm-hmm. And I thought actually I would be like 23, like with millions on the bank. And then suddenly I figured out like this didn't go through. And suddenly, I was just like stuck with this like really, really stressful job.
Yeah.
And then also at some point, like I didn't really believe that much in like the social network, because like the optimization is basically like to waste people's time, and I wanted to like empower people.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then you just went and started Todoist as a company, or what's your story like? Because I know you were also part of the accelerator, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another thing is like, I actually still didn't believe in Todoist. So
Yeah,
I
that's
went,
interesting.
and I co-founded another startup called Doist, which is basically like project management app. And I went to Chile and was part of Startup Chile to actually do that. And after that kind of failed, then I kind of like had like Todoist as a side project. It was making like, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 per month. And I was just like, maybe I should just like optimize this and, like create a nice salary for myself. And yeah, I did that, and it took me like 1 month to actually just like, I don't know, 5x the revenue, something like that. And I was just like, holy shit, like what like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
so stupid, like, yeah.
So, how did you get your first customers with the Todoist? Is it? Oh yeah, that's interesting. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, the thing is actually, I mean, it was a side project for me. So there was like no optimization on anything. So basically, there was like a business model, but the business model was made so it can pay like the server costs. It was not really like optimized towards revenues.
What were some of the specific changes you made that made a difference, or what was broken that you fixed?
So for instance, like there was like no premium page. It directly linked to like PayPal. So imagine like you have like upgrade, and like there's nothing like that tells you actually what you're upgrading. Like, yeah. So that was kind of that. And then also like during the social network, I learned a ton of stuff. So for instance, like the first 4 years, the way that I did analytics was like MySQL queries manually from like a console. So I didn't like know anything, and when I actually re-entered that, I re-entered it with like a lot more knowledge. So like analytics is very important. I kind of built like a dashboard. I just started to track stuff. I started to optimize the landing pages, CEO. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of like low-hanging fruits that I never actually, because it was just like a side project for me. So I never had like incentive to actually go in and improve it.
Do you remember like how many years ago when you realized that, hey, this is real business? I'm gonna work full time on it.
I think that after that, I kind of realized like this is
Yeah.
actually this can be really big. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's
Like after I could actually pay myself a salary, that's when I kind of like figure out, okay, like this can actually be something.
Right. And you were working in Chile, right, on Todoist, and working remotely. I know Amir has been working remotely for a long time now. So why did you decide to build a remote-first company in the first place?
I mean, that's another thing is like I never worked a normal office job.
Yeah.
So actually, like from the university, I started as like a remote worker, and I just stayed that way. So for me, it was kind of like very natural to hire also remotely. Yeah. So that's the thing. It wasn't like some kind of genius stroke that like remote is the future. It was just like, okay, like I'm struggling to find people that can actually like do design
From Chile, right?
Yeah. I mean, Chile, they were like like 8 or 10 years ago, like there was almost nobody that you could hire in Santiago that did like design or like programming at the level that we needed.
Yeah. Did you like go ahead and like hire full-time employees remotely, or did you outsource the development in the beginning? Just curious, how did you start?
Yeah, I mean, I made a huge mistake. So basically, like, I had a budget. I'm not sure how much it was. Like, it wasn't huge. Maybe like $10,000 or something like that. And I kind of like find this outsourcing company in Eastern European country, and they kind of promised everything. Like they would like ship beautiful Android and iOS apps, and like it would just be amazing. So I kind of hired them, and I pay maybe half a price or something like that. And then like a month or two goes by, and I get like this garbage back. Yeah, so that was basically like after that, I have actually never really outsourced anything. So like we do everything in-house, because I figure out like you really need to have
Even
people.
now, right?
Yeah, like even now. Like we do have some stuff like translations, for instance. But even like our translators are kind of like hired and sourced by us. Because like you need to kind of have motivated people that kind of believe in the same mission that you do. Absolutely. Because if not, like it's just like mercenary, like they don't really care about the stuff they are building. You know, of course, maybe this isn't the case for all, but you know, I got burned there, and then like I'm just like, fuck this, like I'm not going to do this again.
Yeah, right. I had a chat with Amir like the other day, and one thing that I really loved him telling about is how he approaches the company that he's building for the long term, right? For like many years to come. And I have been like speaking to various indie hackers, and well, I see that people are very obsessed about passive income, not like building for the long term. So like, I'm curious, how do you think about the business now? Do you see yourself like working for a long time now with this one, or are you thinking of expanding into different directions?
I mean, honestly, like my first goal was kind of to pay myself salary, and also like I told my brother actually before I went to Chile that like the ultimate goal is basically like doing like 30K per month with this, and then I can kind of have like a very nice life, and you know, just like
how long did it take it to you to reach 30K?
I'm unsure, but I actually like before I reached 30K, I began to hire people.
Okay.
Yeah, so. And I think that's maybe like my nature is kind of like always expanding the scope and not like being satisfied with status quo. And I think like even like passive income is just like, you know, once you reach it, it's kind of boring. Like you need to have like new goals and new adventures. Like if not, like it's just like, yeah, I don't know, like you just can't get up in the morning and say passive income, you know, this is like so great. Like maybe some people can, you know, I can't. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your like early growth strategies, because like we want to learn how to grow faster, like better. You know, what really worked for you? Was it mostly like word of mouth because the product was so sticky, or was it content, or what really worked? What strategy?
I had a really popular blog, personal blog. I blogged a lot, and like some of the stuff I posted, like I'm really embarrassed about. I deleted my blog because like, but the thing is, archive is still there. So it's just like, you know, I would just like come home drunk and just like write a post, and then like in the morning, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
it was successful post, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, some of the stuff is embarrassing, but some of the posts were really great. Like I had like some hits, and especially like with like development community. So actually, I kind of built a following, and that like a lot of the early users Todoist users came through my blog.
Right.
Yeah. So I think maybe like you know, the content strategy, or like, you know, sharing stuff and like being part of a community is quite important. Yeah, so that's one thing. And another thing is like I was kind of very good at like also doing like some marketing. So like Lifehacker covered Todoist at some point, and I just got 10,000 users. Like Lifehacker was like pretty big back then. And also like Dig, it also got digged at some point. So that was also great. But the thing is, like, you can't really reuse the stuff right now because I think it's harder, and like you don't really have like Lifehacker is not really the thing that is. But the strategy is really like trying to find like alternative ways to kind of like market, and like maybe, you know, TikTok or whatever. Like right now it's hot. Like, you know, maybe figure out a strategy for that, so you can kind of like go in and maybe go in early before it's kind of saturated. Yeah. So nice. That would probably be like my advice. And I think actually like one thing is kind of building the thing. The other thing is like finding this distribution channel, and like a non-saturated distribution channel. You know, I think that's kind of like half the battle. Yeah. So, I mean, I started this in 2007, and I think, you know, like there was a lot of distribution channels that were not saturated. Yeah. And right now, like a lot of channels are like very, very saturated, and I like finding a differentiated strategy to like attack a market is very, very hard. Yeah. So, I mean, that's something that we still think a lot about. I still think a lot about, because I think like it's not enough to actually just build a great product. Like you also need to find a distribution channel for it, or like maybe just like your marketing can kind of be wacky or funny or whatever, like so it kind of like generates some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but even now, like you're doing really good at the content. Like I think you posted like about 1 million views, a bunch of hacker news, like top hacker news posts, right, on remote working and productivity, right?
Yeah, so we actually still use the same strategy.
Yes.
We're just like much more professional, and there's like no drunk post on our current blog. So yeah.
Cool. So, well, you also have another product, and I'm really interested. How did you decide to build that? I mean, Todoist was growing; it has a huge potential, and then you built Twist. So, can you tell what Twist is about, and why did you build it?
Yeah, I mean, first, some advice here, like don't go multi-product. That's the first thing.
That's a good advice.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's really, really hard. And even for us, like we have 70 people, like finding resources to actually allocate and like focus is really, really important. So for us, like it's not like it's driven by our own need. Like we really wanted to have like asynchronous like communication app, and we actually used Slack before, and Slack does not really scale that well across time zones, and especially not like for us, like we are spread around like over 10 time zones. So we really needed like asynchronous way to communicate. And yeah, I mean that was basically like there was like no this would be amazing. Like no, like we need this tool, and there's nothing on the market that covers this, so let's build it ourselves. And so we have like been at this like for 5 years. Spent millions on this. The results are questionable, but we still believe in this because like we use it so much ourselves. Yeah. But honestly, like don't become multi-product. Like that's. I think that's really, really tough to do.
Well, it reminds me of Basecamp. I mean, if you think of Todoist, task management, then you have Twist for collaboration. If you had document handling, and are you seeing like competing with them or building kind of all-in-one solution?
No, I mean we are not going to go that way, and maybe not yet, but at least like right now we have like enough work for like these two areas that we are tackling.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, one thing that I was thinking, like building products that grow fast, right? And especially with the VC-backed products, like all these massive corporations and companies where you have to move fast, and you don't really get the great products after all. There are a few companies that did it really good, like Airbnb or Stripe. So I'm just wondering, like, what you think about like VC landscape, and whether you have ever considered to raise VC funding.
I mean, honestly, like I think it's a very difficult conversation because I mean, like I'm the thing is like in the beginning I was actually very inspired by Basecamp, like their philosophy, but overall, like over the years, I've kind of like become like more gray in that area. I mean, it's kind of like a tool that you can use in some circumstances, and I don't really think like it. Like you also have like very successful companies that are VC backed. Actually, most of the successful companies that you have are VC backed. So I would rather like focus on maybe just like using that as a tool, and maybe like also thinking about like control aspects when you actually, if you use that as a tool, then just like saying this is evil, like don't do it, it destroys companies, stuff like that. Like yeah. So honestly, like for us, like. I mean, we have had like a lot of VC interest over the years. We never really entertained that a lot because it's kind of like, you build this because you want to be your own boss and you want to kind of control your own destiny. And you don't want to be like forced into an exit. And that's like very important for us. So maybe like if at some point like our like alignment is very clear with the VCs. For instance, like if we want to become a public company, then it could make sense for us to actually pursue that route. Like Atlassian, they did like a secondary round, and then they became like a public company.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a problem.
I see.
Yeah, but just like at this current stage, I don't know. Yeah.
Right. No, I was just like curious because there was this story from Agile Bits for 1Password, 14 years bootstrapping and getting like 200 million in the first round, So that's interesting. How do you like decide being like a bootstrapper for 14 years and then you like go and, look for VC?
I mean, honestly, the thing to note is like the longer your journey is, the larger numbers you have, the better deal you can get. Right. So for them, they're basically set for life, and they have like a chance to build something much bigger.
Right.
Yeah. So like even if everything burns, like they will be pretty good off. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, right now we are kind of very happy with our position, but
yeah,
I understand like why they would do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I just have like a couple of questions more because we wanted to get more questions from the audience. So one is, I guess, just like to you personally, what you think we could do in Barcelona to raise awareness of bootstrapping and to improve the ecosystem of bootstrapping. What would be your advice?
I think these events help a lot, probably.
Where else?
Yeah.
Where else? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually. I mean, maybe like getting some, like flyers on the universities, like getting some young kids from universities. Yeah. Because actually, like what inspired me, at least like initially, was that like one of my friends from university was actually part of the first Y Combinator batch. Mm-hmm. And maybe like a lot of the like university students right now, or like whatever, like young people, they don't really have like, they don't even know that it's like a path they can take. So maybe like getting some inspirations, and like I'm pretty sure like most of like young people, they have never heard about bootstrapping. Yeah. Or like indie hackers or whatever. Like it's just like a very foreign country for them. So maybe like raising awareness for like the young people could be worth it. Yeah,
that's great. Thank you. Just last question. I guess there are a bunch of people here who are thinking of building something. What would be your one piece of advice to aspiring indie hackers?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's a lot of different ways you can attack a problem and like go for something. But I think something that has worked really well for me is kind of like solve your own problem. Like I think like solving somebody else's problem, it's like much harder to keep the motivation. And honestly, like I think this is like fucking hard. Like you must do this like for many years. So like solving somebody else's problem for like many years, I doubt you can like get up in the morning and say yes. Like let's see what John thinks about this issue. So that's something that has worked really well for me. Is like, and I think that can also like help you to kind of keep the stamina for like many years to come if you're actually really passionate about the stuff that you're solving. Mm-hmm. So not just like only try to build like passive income, like doing whatever, but like more build something that you would actually use and pay for yourself.
Right, makes sense. Yeah. Any questions here? I'll pass the mic.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for the chat, for building such a good company. Very inspirational. My question is a little bit long, but bear with me. When you build different companies like yours, you probably face a lot of objections, right? So whatever, like for instance, a solo founder, that's not going to work. You're bootstrapping, that's not going to work. It's already really cramped market, that's not going to work. How do you wire yourself as a founder to overcome these objections, to accept them or to reject them, to ignore them? How do you wire yourself?
That's a great question. And honestly, like I think something that's like a blessing is kind of ignorance. So for me, like initially, like, I didn't like do market research to figure out like to-do lists were all crowded or whatever. Like, yeah. So right now, maybe we have actually lost something inside like our company because we are much more like objective and like, we do research before we read a lot of stuff. And maybe actually like, it's better just like come with like, fresh eyes and think from first principles and solve problems that way. Then like, just like, somebody telling you that you can't do something or like because X, like, yeah. So like initially, like it was just like ignorance, like I didn't know better. So yeah.
Hello. Right. So actually came because I was really interested in your story about setting up not just a company that was bootstrapped, but also that it was a remote company. And I wanted to understand, you were just talking about the importance of not just having a great product, but also having a distribution channel. So I just wanted to understand how, particularly, I don't know if you use a combination of organic marketing or paid for marketing as well, Google Ads, I don't know. But I just want to understand how, especially organic marketing, how it helped in terms of maybe the blog, or first for the product when you were trying to get new users, and then at the point where you wanted to scale the company. Did you have people just applying, oh, we want to work with Todoist, or was it a case of you had to market it and try and find the right person? How did you market the company as an attractive place to work in as well?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I mean, first of all, like we actually didn't really do any paid marketing. We have never done that. Like we did some like testing with that, but the problem is like you need to spend a shit ton of money doing that. So like, yeah, I don't like as an indie hacker, I don't think that's a route that you can actually take. That's like VC backed route. So regarding hiring, I mean, of course, like at our current level, like, you know, for some of our job posting, we got like thousands of applicants. So it's kind of like much easier to hire now. But initially, like it was really, really hard. And I think like initially you kind of like need to find again, like guerrilla tactics. So actually like what I did is like I hired some of the Startup Chile founders that have failed. So I kind of like convinced them to kind of join. Yeah, and like also initially, I think like you really need to be like very convincing and like maybe, you know, sell the vision a lot because you will not be able to pay a salary. So some of the early people that I actually hired, you know, they were hired like very little money. Like, and I also told them like, I don't know actually like how many months I can do this. Like, you know, so yeah, I mean, I think it's like really, really challenging. And that's probably something that you also find out when, like if you go and want to hire somebody, yeah. And especially right now, like even, you know, I think initially when I started, it was much easier to hire than it's now. So maybe also right now you can maybe look at like equity, like, you know, give ownership in the stuff that you're doing to kind of convince people to join you. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So my question was, at which stage did you bring people into the project and why? I mean, after I could pay my own salary, I actually began to hire people. And the reason was I kind of like wanted to do like native mobile apps. And I couldn't like really do that myself. Like that wasn't like, I was mostly like on the web front end and like back end. So that was kind of like the like some of the first hires I did. And then another good hire I did initially was I hired like a MBA who is actually right now our CEO, Alan. And this was actually a very smart hire because he kind of complemented a lot of the skills that I lacked. So like the people skills and like more business minded thinking. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, so you start as a developer, and obviously when you're building something, you're always like doing jobs you're not qualified for, right? Suddenly you're hiring, then you're managing or whatever, then you're negotiating, you're like doing all this stuff. And some of those things, I guess I'm curious which ones you found valuable in retrospect to have learned, like the non-obvious skills. Like, is there something like, oh, I'm super glad I became a good manager, or I'm super glad I became a good negotiator, like, or I'm super glad I whatever. Like any of the non-technical or non-obvious skills that have kind of like made your tech skills your more valuable or more useful.
I mean, you will like this. One of I think like the best skills I have learned is kind of writing and like communicating well. I think that this is like the most critical skill that you can actually learn. Yeah. So that would be probably that. But honestly, like I think as a founder, and that's maybe like the founder mentality is kind of like you need to know a shit ton about like almost everything, especially like initially. So initially I did like design, marketing, support, and then you need to hire people for that and stuff. And like even right now, like I need to actually like know something about marketing or like about customer support to actually do my job well. So it actually never really stops. Yeah. But honestly, like the global skill would be writing and communicating.
What's been the biggest challenge for, I don't know how close you are in the actual operations of Twist, but what has been the biggest challenge overcoming, for example, like the Slacks and Microsoft Teams? Why has it been a challenge for Twist? Because they are, I think was mentioned, kind of more of a robust tool than just a comment thread like Slack is.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like something that is kind of like very hard in the current market is kind of like the quality that people expect. So like MVPs, especially for something like team communication, don't really work that well. And even like any tool that you do, like people expect a lot of like quality and finish and features. So like, we have like maybe 6 people working in Twist. Slack has like 1,000 more people. Microsoft, who knows how many they have. They have like $1 billion budgets they can actually deploy for this. So, and we have like 10 people that are like 6 people that are competing against them. So it's kind of like just like, David versus Goliath and like, yeah. So, and I think like in almost any market you enter, you'll kind of have that thing. And even if you are very successful, like people can actually very easily copy you. So for instance, like for us, like if we at some point like reach, product market fit with Twist, Microsoft can easily say, okay, like, let's deploy 1,000 people and just like re-implement this. And that's what they did with Slack. Like, they kind of tried to acquire Slack, then that failed. And 6 months later, they had like Microsoft Teams. So it's kind of brutal, to be honest.
I've checked out Twist. I think it's an awesome product. So I commend you guys on that. If anyone has not checked that out, you should check it out. But you did bring up it just brings up another question. When it comes to MVPs, I think a lot of the startup founders in here can attest to the fact that you want to get your product as perfect as possible before you release it into market. In your experiences, how important is that? Because I've heard on both sides, ones say if you have launched and your product's perfect, you launch too late. So what is your thoughts having built various products?
Honestly, like I think it's kind of a gray area and maybe both things can make sense. But I also heard like a really great tip is kind of like just like keep re-releasing stuff. So like keep launching until you get it like, so
you lose users that way?
I mean, you do. But actually, like right now, we are kind of like working on like Twist 2.0 initiative, which is basically going to be like, and that can kind of spark again a new like interest in the product. But yeah, I mean, reaching product market fit and like iterating towards that's really, really hard, and especially like in the current market. So I'm actually unsure like if I have like a very good solution for this. Of course, you can kind of be very lucky and like enter something where just like you hit the bullseye right away. But what I have found out is kind of just like you need to be prepared for like a struggle, like a marathon, and keep at it for like many years. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention about Twist because you do have a kind of unique angle, right, compared to Slack and Teams, right? Because you go from synchronous to asynchronous, so that gives you probably a bit different perspective on messaging and marketing, right? Does it work that way, or that's how I see it from the side of this?
Yeah, I mean that is a great. I mean, we are definitely like very, very different from like the other products that are on the market. The problem is like the market is not really like, of course, like the thing is like we have, I don't know, like a few thousand teams using this, so it's not like we don't have like any kind of traction, but it's just like it's not like 100,000 teams. Right. The market pool of the stuff that you're doing needs to also be there. Like you don't like if you're like kind of positioned differently, but like the market doesn't really value you position that much. It's not really powerful. Yeah.
So that's where I guess remote comes in with multi-time zones, and that's definitely good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But honestly, like it's really, really hard. Like yeah. So maybe like also for Twist, like maybe we'll like be at this like for 5 or 10 years before we actually have like a really successful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do like 1 or 2 questions more, and then we go to the lightning talks. And you can as well ask during networking.
I mean, I do have many, but
yeah, go ahead. Ask a question.
But mine are going to be much more specific.
Ray, there is Ray. Right?
Oh,
Ray
sorry. I didn't see you. Sorry, mate.
Thanks. So I'm actually writing a blog at the moment, and I've been tuning in more and more as you've been talking. But it's about the creation of failure environments. And in my research, a lot of founders are now glorifying it and awarding the biggest failure awards and things like that. So I'm curious to know what it's been like from your experience and where you're at now as a business, if this is something you do, or this is something that you actually think. I feel like a lot of startups are almost shooting to fail now, and that's part of research. So I'm just curious to get your viewpoint on it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if we look, at the stats, it's kind of very grim. So, most new companies fail, and I think just like part of the environment, and even like for successful companies, like to like launch something, a new product, and have that be a success, like that's also really, really hard. Like even if you have like a huge amounts of like users, you have a distribution channel, and etc. So I think that kind of failure is part of it, but of course, like I don't think we should glorify it. I mean, still like very hard, and maybe something that is more important is kind of like what you learn from your failure. Yeah. So, for instance, like the social network I did, that was kind of like a failure, but I learned a ton doing that. So I don't really view that as a failure. Like financially, like it didn't make me millionaire, but I learned a lot of stuff doing that. So maybe like what's more important is just like learning, and like maybe enjoying the stuff that you do as you go along. Yeah.
John, you had the last one? Go ahead.
Mine was very specific, actually. But like, for example, my application, when you sign up, you have to register immediately. It's something Todoist does as well. But that's killing like my review. Well, it's not really killing, but it's affecting my reviews. And it's also, I'm losing like at least the 20% of the installs I get. So for me, 20% of the installs I get is quite a lot. But I'm fighting that because I think that then I get the emails, I can do remarketing, blah, blah, blah. So do you know the decision behind that? Because there are many other to-do apps that have an onboarding straight and then ask for sign up afterwards. So how would you justify that decision?
Yeah, I mean, we have actually talked about this quite sometimes. We never actually committed to this. And actually, like recently somebody posted, like Airbnb did like an A/B test that's like valued like $10 million. So they kind of just like did a huge A/B test of exactly that, like sign up versus not sign up. And what they actually found out is like the sign up phase works a lot better and converts a lot better. So the thing is like it's a different market, of course, but honestly, like I think like the first time usage of a product, like people's time is kind of like attention span is kind of in seconds. It's really, really tough. And like even if you don't have that, I'm pretty sure you will still lose like 20% or whatever.
Thank you so much. So you can catch Amir doing networking. We have lightning talks. Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.